Other drops in state. Foreign rice stew in Kano. Local produce still costly. You can actually find these on the Daily Trust this morning. Still a story coming in the Daily Trust. PDP to resolve leadership crisis August. Damagun continues as acting chairman. And still on Daily Trust, Bello's absence stalls trial as EFCC declares ex-governor wanted. We'll be taking a look at that big story shortly. And of course, I'm being joined for this paper review by Barrister Achibong who joins us via Zoom from Lagos to review some of these papers. Good to have you this morning. Join us.
All right, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. Of course, let's get to Guardian newspaper. Guardian newspaper, the big story on the Guardian newspaper this morning is a Borno resident on the edge of the trappening on active landmines. This is coming due to the insecurity right there in Borno State. PDP returns Damagun, asks Tinubu to rejig economic team. That's advice coming from People's Democratic Party. And another story from the Guardian's newspaper this morning. World Bank, rising inflation, weak earnings push 10 million Nigerians into poverty in 2023. And because the story is still from EFCC declaring Bello wanted over alleged 80.2 billion fraud. Let's get a pause right there and take a look at these issues of arrest by EFCC declaring former governor of Kogi State wanted. Achibong, what do you have to say regarding this? Yesterday, day before yesterday, we had two others, one coming from Kogi State and one coming from Abuja. One was asking which one is EFCC to obey or which one is Yaya Bello to obey.
Okay, the issue of conflicting court decision, is something that we have seen in the past. But as regards to this particular issue of the former governor of Kogi State, it is very trite. The EFCC has the power to carry out arrests, to carry out investigation when necessary. So the EFCC had alleged that they have a valid warrant, arrest warrant, to arrest the former governor of Kogi State. On the other hand, the former governor and his allies are saying that they have an order stopping the EFCC to effect that arrest. Now the issue now comes to jurisdiction. Which of the courts have the jurisdiction to entertain the matter? And the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is very clear on which court has the Constitution. Section 251 of the Constitution, subparagraph R. It says that when you seek to, I'm paraphrasing, when you seek to, get a declaration or against a declaration or an injunction against an agency of the federal government, the appropriate court is the Federal High Court. So you cannot go to the State High Court to get an injunction or a declaration against, an agency of the Federal High Court. That court lacks the jurisdiction. So what the former governor of Kogi said, it was forum shopping, going to a court of convenience, irrespective of the fact whether the court has the jurisdiction or not. So the appropriate court is the Federal High Court, and they have issued, according to the EFCC, they have a valid warrant of arrest to effect against the former governor. And we should also know that the former governor lacks immunity. He no longer has immunity. The immunity that covered him in Section 308 of the Constitution has been, taken away from him by virtue of the fact that he's no longer the governor of Kogi State. So he cannot. The fact that he is present in the government house cannot grant him immunity. So him trying to evade arrest is something. Even trying to evade arrest is a legal issue. Section 197 of the Criminal Code say you cannot try to stop an agency of government from carrying out its duties. So the court with the requisite jurisdiction is the Federal High Court.
Yesterday we had a report where they said that we'll go to the government house and if need be, comes with the military soldiers to get his arrest. And of course, we also had where the governor visited his residence and the play out of EFCC at the residence of the former Kogi State governor. What do you have to play? I mean, is there immunity that covers the government house? I mean, from arrest, we understand that there's immunity that covers the governor, but is there, do EFCC, I mean, what security agency has the powers to invade into government house for an arrest regarding issues like this?
The immunity, covers the Section 308 specifies who the immunity covers. It covers the president, the vice president, the governor, and the deputy governor. It does not cover the office of the governor. However, certain respect are accorded to certain institutions and vicinities. For example, you cannot arrest someone in the premises of the National Assembly, and then or you can also arrest someone in an embassy of a state. When I'm talking about a state now, I'm referring to a country. So there are certain respect, so to say, that are given to certain institutions and environment because of the influence. But the former governor, the present governor, the incumbent governor visiting the former governor, it was alleged that he smuggled him out of his house. But then the Commissioner for Information of Kogi State has come out to say that is not the case, that there's no evidence that the former governor was even in his residence in the first instance, and then there's also no evidence that the incumbent governor went in and smuggled the governor out of his premises. So that is where the issue is, and I am of the opinion that where EFCC has obtained a valid order of court, a valid arrest warrant, and then they reasonably suspect that the former governor was in his residence, they need not lay siege and wait for him. They can use reasonable force. They can use reasonable force to get him out and make him face the law.
All right, I mean, let's get over to the Nation newspaper this morning. The big story from the Nation newspaper: presidency, APC clash with PDP on economic security. And AGF Fayemi urges Yahaya Bello to surrender, still on the issues of running after EFCC running after the former governor of Kogi State. PDP keeps Damagun as chair till August. APC asks police to arrest imposters who suspended Ganduje. And another story there at the middle of the Nation newspaper: JAMB orders arrest of parents found at CBT centers. Archibald, let me get to you. This was the story coming in yesterday. How do parents interfere in the exercise of the CBT test, and that JAMB has to order for the arrest? I mean, asking the CBT owners to arrest any parent they find around in their facilities as the preparation for the 2024 UTME examination.
I asked myself the same question, because being around the premises of the CBT center in itself does not constitute an offense that will warrant the arrest of a parent. It's normal in the African culture, for parents to follow their children in this type of occasions, to show support, to show solidarity, to also imbibe to build confidence in the child. So saying that any parent on site should be arrested is worrisome. So except where the parent is trying to influence officials of JAMB, or trying to do activities that are illegal, that is when they can validly arrest such parents. But in itself, the CBT exams, when you go there, it's yourself, the candidate, to his computer, and there are surveillance camera around. So why are they calling for the arrest of parents? What is happening? It's not as if this paper is going to be manually transported to JAMB office. Immediately you log out of the system, your paper is submitted. It goes direct to the JAMB server. So I'm wondering what happens. Why are they calling for the arrest? Is there anything they are not telling us? Is there anyhow the presence of parents in the JAMB center is influencing negatively the conduct of the examination. Because also where it can be that parents are constituting nuisance, or they are their presence there is distracting the candidate from concentrating on their exam. That can be a reason to try to restrain them, to restrain them from causing distraction to the student or candidate. I think that's a valid excuse to restrain parents from getting access to at a certain distance. Yes, at a certain distance from the CBT center.
All right, another story on the Nation newspaper. AGF Fayemi urges Yahaya Bello to surrender. Immigration put ex-governor on watch list at borders. I reject charges against me. I mean, take a look at the fact that the Attorney General seems to be pleading with former governor of Kogi State. One may be because the expectance of people, or many Nigerians have been saying that yes, this has been a tool of going witch hunting members of other political parties. But this time around, he's a member of the ruling party, and many people were thinking that they would have actually had some presidential understanding regarding that. Right now, Bello seems, the Attorney General of the Federation is asking him to surrender himself. And is it aware of a political interest trying to play out in the exercise?
You know that this government, in its fight for fight against corruption, has tried to prosecute high-ranking officials of former government, starting from Emefiele. But then Emefiele, the people were saying that it's because of he was trying to frustrate the incumbent president from emerging as the president of the country. And then in this other instance, the AGF asking Yahaya Bello to turn himself in, despite the fact that he's an APC member, and as we all know, most government tend to protect their party members. But then, looking at it critically, you may find that there may be a reason why Yahaya Bello is particularly targeted, so to say. I'm not against his being prosecuted, but I'm only saying that there may be a reason. You recall that Yahaya Bello was one of the presidential candidates of the APC. And while other presidential candidates like Akpabio, stepped down for President Tinubu and was then rewarded with, the office of the Senate President, Yahaya Bello did not step down for His Excellency Senator Tinubu. And then it can be a ground saying that my seat has been haunting him for not stepping down. But that aside, that sentiment aside, I think the AGF did the right thing. Yahaya Bello has to, face the law, face the consequences of his action. And luckily for him, there is presumption of innocence in his favor. So, despite the accusations against him, he is being presumed innocent in law. So, and then the offense is being charged is a bailable offense. So, he has nothing to run if his hands are clean.
All right, let's get to the Punch newspaper this morning. Still big story, 80 billion naira money laundering. Federal government places Yahaya Bello on watch list. Immigration alerts DSS. Federal government orders border surveillance, asks DSS, NIA police to prevent ex-governors escape. EFCC should obey court order restraining ex-governors' arrest. Bello lawyers insist. That is still one of the stories. We will not dwell much on that again. Our troops rescue pregnant Chibok girls with 3 children. That can be found on page 14 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Still under the Punch, Lagos Calabar Highway Federal Government panel to pay compensation. Still on Punch, 16 killed as Bono bus runs over a very bomb blast right there in Borno State. The story here coming in, Abuja supermarket plans Lagos Port Harcourt versus. I know we'll be taking a look at that story shortly after this paper review with our very developmental economics expert. Will be layering emphasis on that. Next silence on Wike Saraki leads peace panel. I mean, Achibong, I understand you're not a party man, but the fact that Wike seems to be in PDP in the morning and goes to APC in the night has also been a concern to Nigerians. How the strong opposition party seems to be PDP, but they are unable to take actions against Wike. Do you feel that this is a play of some share of power?
First of all, I would like to say that Wike does not play APC in the night. I does not play PDP in the day. Wike plays PDP in the day and APC in the day, and nothing is being done about that. So he's not hiding his stance. He's playing both parties. And also, for you to say, PDP is the main opposition right now, we have like two major opposition parties in the country. You cannot rule out Labour Party, taking cognizance of the number of votes they pulled out in the last election, and the influence of the presidential candidate even in this administration, because some of the suggestions of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, His Excellency Peter Obi, are being implemented by the present government. So Wike was even in the last PDP stakeholders meeting, and nothing was done about that. Yeah, PDP cannot complain now. They have nothing to say. They have waived their right in as much as they can still do something about it. But then the right time they would have acted was before the election, because that was when they had something to lose. But right now, after the election, that's when Wike has something to lose, and PDP also has something to lose. But right now, after the election, Wike is now the minister of the FCT. Even if the party suspends him now, he has nothing to lose. So PDP would have acted earlier by either suspending him or even terminating his membership in the party. But acting now is, I think they are late. They can only plead with him.
I wonder how you want them to play with Wike, because you also understand the trouble that is given in Rivers State. The list of, the committees that have been set up, the governor seems not to be aware, and this has also been a play-out between the rift between the governor of Rivers State and the former governor. Moving away from that, let's get to Vanguard newspaper this morning. Big story on Vanguard. Tinubu's government hasn't borrowed from Central Bank of Nigeria, says Edun. Ways and means to be pinned down to deal with liquidity. Arts officials, monetary authorities complementing each other to bring inflation down. Discloses government to borrow fees and focus more on domestic rescue mobilization. That's a big story on the Vanguard. Still on Vanguard, over 1,000 student educators abducted, killed in Nigeria. Reports coming from UNICEF. Wike triumph as PDP NEC endorses Damagun-led National Working Committee NWC. Agitation for Yoruba nation, laughable, says the DHQ. Let me take you, Archibald. Last week, we saw some group of persons agitating in Oyo State for the emergence of Yoruba nation. And one may begin to ask, if South is agitating due to the fact that from 1999, they haven't produced any president in the country. But this is the ethnic group in the country that has had this is the second president, after MK Abiola attempted. Do you feel that the agitation, what do you feel is the motive? You are in Lagos. What do you feel is the motive of the Yoruba nation?
Can you quickly recap your question? I had some network challenges.
All right, I said, last week we saw how a Yoruba group of persons under umbrella of Yoruba nation agitated. They were invaded the Secretariat of Oyo State and even the House of Assembly and all of that. One may begin to ask, this is the people of Southwest have had two presidents so far, aside the attempt by MK Abiola. Do you feel that, what do you feel is the motivation behind the agitations of Yoruba nation?
Okay, first, a nation is, a group with, like-minded interests and people from the same, probably ancestral origin. What we have as a country is a state. Nigeria is a state, so to say. So the Yoruba people agitating for, a separate state of their own is not out of place. They may not actually have they need not have a concrete reason to even say they want a state of their own. But I feel that in as much as they have had two presidents so far, they still feel, majority of Yoruba people still feel marginalized. When you look at the past administration, I'm talking about the Buhari administration, you could see the lopsidedness in, in appointment. These are some of the things that fuel, the agitation for the Yoruba states. So every part of the country, so the south they want to leave, the southeast they want to leave, the southwest they want to be on their own. So it's because people want to control their resources. Every state want to control their resources. Naturally, as a federal, as a country practicing federalism, each state should, be autonomous, so to say, to control the resources within its borders. But this is not the case. The states are not controlling their resources. Most of the items in which the states that have control are in the exclusively sold to the powers of the federal government. So these are some of the things that are fueling agitations here and there from southwest to southeast. I believe that's their major reason for looking for a separate state of their own.
All right, I mean, let's take a look at the fact that still on Vanguard this morning, our federal government will pay 3.2 trillion naira as subsidy if tariff hike is reversed. There are agitations for some group of persons that tariff must be reversed. Do you feel that, I mean, the discos are given a lot of electricity and are given the power enough to end the new tariff? Because the expectation was if Band A, who are to have 20 hours of electricity, I mean, they're still grumbling with that very factor. I mean, even with the midst of increase. Are you sharing of the thought that this must be reversed if they cannot in any way supply the electricity?
Okay. Whether the tariff should be reversed, I don't really think, whether the tariff should, I think the tariff should be reversed, so to say, because the power that the discos are supplying is not what we bargained for. Plan A, like you rightly said, are supposed to get 20 hours light electricity per day, but they are not getting it, but they are paying money. But luckily, their haphazard, supply of electricity may not necessarily affect, people that are using prepaid meters, because if they don't supply electricity, their money remains in their meter. It's not going anywhere. So, but then what about the consumers that they are postpaid? So whether they give lights or whether they supply electricity or not, they are still going to pay huge amounts of money as electricity bill. So I think the discourse should come out and tell us what is their problem. They should come out, complain, and tell us what is their problem. Are they not receiving the required assistance from the federal government? Is their power plant not enough to generate the electricity that the country needs? So they should come out and tell us. They cannot just come in and say they want to increase tariff, and then we are not seeing the impact. We are not feeling the impact. So some days you can stay like 2-3 days without electricity, and nothing is being done about it. By now, we should be talking about all the, at least the cities having 24 hours light in the major cities, but that is not the case. So the disco should come out and tell us what is their problem. How can we solve this electricity issue in the country? Because electricity drives so many sectors, the health sector, the all sectors. You need electricity. In businesses need electricity to survive. So this issue of electricity should be resolved as soon as possible.
Chibong Adage, for a legal practitioner joining us from Lagos for your thoughts, of course, on the program this morning on the newspaper review. Many thanks, deeply appreciate. All right, we'll go on a quick break right now. Once we return, we're taking a look at the fact that due to the high cost of food, I mean the inflation in the food, the commissions of consumer protections has moved to regulate market prices. I'll be joined by development economists and public affairs analyst Victor Aliko. shortly by 8:30 exactly, we'll begin the conversations here on Global Morning. Stay with us. Well, it's time for us to stay with us here on Global Morning, Global Television. Of course, I'm your host. We'll be taking a look at the fact that to address the issues of food inflation, the Federal Commission for Consumer Protections has begun a very audacious check on the market. This has been the fact that yesterday some supermarkets here in the Federal Capital Territory were locked up by the Commission's task force. This has also generated some concern. Should it be that market forces should be open? Should government have a role to play in checkmating prices, determining the prices of products in the market? I'm being joined by an economist, a development expert, and a public affairs analyst, Victor Aliko, who joins us via Zoom for the purpose of this conversation. Good to have you join us on the show this morning.
It's a pleasure.
All right. I mean, let's begin the fact that what should be the definition of products? I mean, to be regulated. Should all the products and services in the country be regulated? I mean, does government have the powers?
Yeah. So when I saw that information, it was a bit. I received it with mixed feeling. Mixed feeling because if you look at basic economic principles, government have clearly no business with pricing. But again, if you look at the uniqueness of our society, Nigeria, where some persons have the assumption that whatever goes up in Nigeria never comes down, then you might actually see the need where the government should come in. Inflation in Nigeria, we have been made to understand that there is a social part of it. Even if prices of goods and commodities are expected to go down in the market, even if dollar or the naira is appreciating, some persons expect that goods and services in the market, we also have commensurate reduction in prices. But again, we have noticed that there are some Nigerians, because of what some people call the Nigerian factor, who are so used to high prices that they would not want to bring down the prices regardless of the appreciation of the naira. So I'm sure what the government is trying to say is these individuals who have this habit of not bringing down prices, let's identify who they are and see how we can go after them, because the government have done their own bits in ensuring that prices of goods and services go down. But again, if you also look at it from another lens, you look at issues, for instance, like insecurity, that have been the major challenge with food inflation in Nigeria. Insecurity has been the major enabler for food inflation. So insecurity, has it actually reduced? Some persons will say no. Have farmers gone back to the farm? Some persons will say no. But if you look at the cost of food from foreign exchange, particularly for imported food, then there might be some sense in government saying, we want to see how we can move to ensure we regulate these market prices. But ideally, the government have no business in price regulation.
I mean, there are some factors that have warranted this. When you take a look at the fact that fuel subsidy removal has skyrocketed a lot of, the food inflation that we're having, where farmers who move their goods from particular locations to the other have to pay more. Government have not in any way made move an attempt to subsidize transportation. Do you feel that these are the things that they must begin to pay attention to so that they can actually have a voice, in the market?
Of course, that's correct. So if you look at when the subsidy was removed, there was conversation by the federal government around providing CNG buses. There was also conversations around the federal government providing some bit of palliatives to farmers, to businesses and all that, to incentivize them and see how they can support them. And again, the assumption is that some of these incentives would help manage the prices of goods and services in the market. But of course, government have not done any of this. They have not provided full transportation, which is a major means of road transportation, particularly, which is a major means of people moving goods from one place to another. So if you look at somebody who's into maybe agricultural food, buying food from Sokoto and moving it to a place like Port Harcourt or a place like Akwa Ibom State, have they gotten any support from the government in terms of reducing the cost of transportation? No, they haven't. So if you go to these individuals and tell them you want to regulate their prices, you get a backlash from them. They will react to these issues. So I think the government must, like you rightly pointed out, must address the issues with highs or increase in transportation costs as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy. And once these things are done, naturally, prices will go down. But again, let me take us back to principles of economics. So in economics, that's what we call perfect competition. By perfect competition, it means a market where you have many sellers and many buyers. This is common among FMCGs, where you have so many buyers and so many sellers. So a increase or reduction in small prices would generally affect the market. So for instance, if you take any of the staples we have in the food or in the market, if your competitor drop their price by 5 naira or 10 naira, if you don't bring down your price, naturally you go out of the market. But again, we have types of markets where we call oligopoly. Oligopoly are you have few buyers. For instance, what you have in the telecom sector. So in the telecom, you have only MTN, Airtel, Glo, and I think one other. The four of them can gang up and have a situation where they have like a guild, they are like a cartel. They decide on the prices they want to sell. So regardless of whether price goes up or goes down, they can decide to maintain that price. Remember, there are only 4 buyers and there are the only 4 alternatives we have. Another example is the cement industry, where we have only Dangote, Bua, Lafarge, and I think one other. The 4 of them can also gang up and say, this is the price we want to sell. And again, we have what we call monopoly. Monopoly, like for those of us here in Abuja, we have AEDC. They are the only licensed distributor in terms of electricity. And if AEDC says this is the price they want to sell, that's it. We don't have an alternative. So this kind of market is difficult for the government to regulate this kind of markets. They can't regulate monopoly, obviously, because they have their price takers, their price fixers. They fix the price in the market. So we also have markets like the oligopoly. You can't fix prices for them. But for the perfect competition where we have so many buyers and so many sellers, I'm sure that's where the government is targeting. To say, let's see how we can address these issues of some Nigerians not bringing down their prices, even when the business environment is favorable. Yeah.
All right. What is your assessment to the central bank's Cardoso's leadership? I mean, the effort, policies, and his impact so far in the Nigerian economy?
Yeah. So for me, I think in a scale of 1 to 10, I would give them 6. They have done fairly above average. I know that the challenges in the FX that we've witnessed in the last couple of months, or let's say roughly 1 year, it's not as a result of this current administration's challenges. So it was something they inherited from the previous administration. If you look at conversations around what the central bank should be borrowing to the federal government of Nigeria, the former CBN governor Emefiele went beyond the threshold of what was expected. If you look at the CBN Act. So Cardoso and his team, they have tried to manage an ailing economy. They have tried to manage an economy that they inherited that was purely bad. And again, they have decided to flow the Naira to the forces of demand and supply. But again, we have seen the Naira gone from the Naira to dollar gone from nearly 600 to roughly about 1,600. And again, they have tried to drag it down to about roughly 1,000, 1,100 on the average. So they have done fairly well. They have been able to pay off all the backlogs of the FX to the airline operators in Nigeria and all that. And again, they have also been able to bring in some reforms. By reforms, we mean the BDCs. They have been able to deregister some BDCs, the ones that are politically, or what we call political BDCs. They were not actively involved in the market. They have also gone after the Binance executive, which they felt was partly responsible for the devaluation of the Naira excessively. So some of these reforms have also strengthened investors' confidence in the Nigerian economy to say, okay, yeah, now if you're an investor, a foreign investor, once you put in your dollar, you're getting your dollar back directly without anybody holding back your dollar valuation to use it to strengthen the Naira. So I will fairly say they have done well. But again, there have been cases of policy incoherence. Removing subsidy and floating the Naira at the same time was inappropriate. The timing was poor. Again, also removal of subsidy as when Mr. President announced it again was also poor. So again, they have had some fairly good advantages where we have to appreciate them. But they've also made some decisions where we felt it was disastrous to the economy.
I mean, the central bank also those out about $10,000 to be able to change. I mean, the partnerships. This has never. I mean, this was suspended. I understand that has always been activities. What is your assessment in the market? Has this given? Is there any impact so far on the market space?
Yeah. So if you look at the former administration, Emefiele actually suspended selling $10,000 weekly to BDCs because they felt some of them were involved in currency racketeering. So they prefer to use the commercial banks, or what we call the deposit money banks, to do that. But I think the BDCs are closer to the people. The banks, again, were also guilty of the same challenges that the BDCs were accused of. And hence, they had to come back to the BDCs and say, okay, now we have been able to bring in some reforms. We have deregistered some BDCs we think are not required. And let's sell back again to the BDCs and use them to have direct access to individuals who need the dollar for maybe private purposes or business purposes outside the country. So BDCs are closer to the people than the banks. So selling back to the BDCs, I think is something I appreciate and something I think has also helped the market. It's easier for me to go to Wuse Market or maybe Wuse Zone 5 and all that and buy dollar directly, faster, quickly, and use it for whatever purpose than directly going to the bank, applying, going through some bureaucratic processes and all that. So I think it's a welcome development. The BDCs, again, have also lived up to the expectation, understanding that this is a new administration and they need to sit up. So for those of them who are not sitting up, they would clearly be deregistered. So I think it's a good move and one that I appreciate. It has also helped the market. If you look at the last 1 month or so, Naira has appreciated up until what we have now.
I mean, SMEs are struggling so far in the economy. They're trying. I mean, the economy. I mean, the environment is not conducive for SMEs to thrive. When you look at the issues of power and other factors, you may actually look at. How do we begin to see more of a production? Because we are still making a high level of consumption in the country and less of production. Then there are factors that are not in any way encouraging these improvement. What do you feel the government must begin to pay attention to so that SMEs and production can be encouraged in the country?
Excellent. That's an incredible question. So I think if you look at issues around MSME financing or funding around Nigeria, there are so many agencies of government. If you look at Bank of Industry, for instance, we have Bank of Agriculture. We have one that is not popular, they call Development Bank of Nigeria. Again, I think that they are one of the highest funders of MSMEs in Nigeria. But a lot of these agencies, the activities are fairly not pronounced. So many people who actually need these funds in rural communities, villages, may not actually be steady on TVs to know these agencies. So again, one of the key issues, enlightenment, people are actually not aware that these agencies exist of government and the processes to even go through to access this funding. So funding is critical to the life of every economy for MSMEs. And again, I think Nigeria can, of course, address issues burden on production through MSMEs. But another issue, again, that crops up is the issue that in the past, when governments have, even if you look at the former administration of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan through Shopee, if you look at the conditional cash transfer through the former president, and other initiatives that have been done for MSMEs, some of these initiatives have been shrouded in corruption. Because again, like I usually say, Nigeria has issues of data poverty. So we actually don't know the total number of businesses or MSMEs in Nigeria. We don't know where they are. We actually have not done what we call MSME pipeline to identify these individuals and know those who need these funds and address these funds directly to them. So we have seen a situation where NISRA loans in the past, the COVID-19 relief loans in the past have been given to people. They have been conduit pipes for corruption. We don't know who these individuals are. When they collect these monies, a lot of people in these government agencies pay to their cronies. They register a business today, and next week or 2 weeks' time, they are giving them loans, when they're actually businesses that need these funds. So if you look at the statistics by Business Day, it says over 80% or 70% of businesses in Nigeria die after 5 years. So I think our funding should begin to focus on businesses that have existed to up to 5 years, because these businesses, you can say they are fairly strong enough to survive. But again, data poverty is an issue. I remember attending a session by the World Bank at the Lagos Business School, where the World Bank country economy said, they reached out to the road to CBN at the time and said, we wanted the number of people who have benefited from all these MSME loans, conditional cash transfers and all that. And surprisingly, they didn't get any feedback from Central Bank of Nigeria, because a lot of these things, again, like I said, have been conducted for corruption. We don't know who they are receiving these funds. They have no transparency. We want to see a situation where when they give out loans to businesses, we want to see on newspapers the names of these businesses, their websites, how we can address them, so that we can, journalists like yourself can do a background check or can identify or can do some sort of investigation to find out who exactly is benefiting from these funds. But again, I remember the CBN saying that over 200 billion have become bad debts because of previous initiatives by the central bank. So giving funds is not actually the issue, but looking at the corruption involved in it in our economy is another big issue that must be addressed, and transparency must be involved in the process.
How many thanks, Victor, for your thoughts, contribution on the program this morning. And of course, we're looking forward to see that a lot of reformations are being made by the government regarding regulations of prices in the market, and of course, giving environment conducive for SMEs and other market forces to strive. Many thanks for your thoughts and the conversations on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right. All right, we're going to quit break right now. Once we're back, we'll round up the discussions with the PDP meeting yesterday with National Working Committees, the NEC meeting, which is the highest meeting body of the People's Democratic Party. Do stay with us. What a time for us to stay with us here on Global Morning. Of course, yesterday, the National Executive Committee of the People's Democratic Party met here in Abuja, and there were several resolutions coming from the meetings. A part of that was that the acting national chairman, Umaru Damagun, must continue to stay now until August. This, of course, met reactions, a mixed reaction about the fact that some caucus of the House of Representatives are threatened that delaying the decisions till August 2024 means that the party will have some other challenges to face with, and maybe some faces some threats like the camping to APC and all the parties. But how did the PDP get to resolve these? Wike was in presence in the meeting, and of course the former vice president, the presidential candidate of People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, was also at the meeting. They gave room to the fact that they extended some of the conflict within themselves, but no sanction was met. Several persons were expecting that tough decisions would be taken by the People's Democratic Party. Agitations by the North Central for them to have the PDP national chairman, and for the fact that Benue people are saying that Ayu was from Benue. What happens to replacing a Benue party official to be the chairman of the People's Democratic Party? All of these has met with a lot of reactions, but the People's Democratic Party survived yesterday's meeting, and several of the national working committees met here in Abuja for the discussion. We are still bringing, of course, following some developments among the People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party. What are the fate of the major opposition party? The essence of the opposition party is also checkmate, the policies, some of the policies, programs of the ruling party. I understand that APC Ganduje, chairman, is also having some trials in Kano State. But all of these are what we are beaming alive to make room for the state of the nation politically, the fate of PDP, fate of the Labour Party, and the fate of APC. These are the major political parties in the country, and they have a role to play in some of the policies because parties' ideology have a role in enacting some of the policies and implementations here in the country. And that's where we begin to wrap up the show here on Global Morning. Of course, it's been a delight having you from the conversations around JAMB, restrictions of parents, and of course, threatening with an arrest if parents are being found at the facilities as the 2024 UTME examinations is ongoing. The issues of EFCC going after the former governor of Kogi State, and the fact that the Commission for Consumers Protections are ongoing in all supermarkets everywhere in the country to checkmate every supermarket that are selling above prices in the market. This is in a bid to protect you and I from being victim of circumstances. The food inflation is high, but we all have a role to play in enacting the fact that we can come out of this current situation. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, are giving fantastic policies to give Naira strength in the market. The presidency has assured that we are not in any way sleeping. So what do we begin to do as Nigerians? We must begin to see how we can support the government. We must see how we can begin to project policies that are good, doing the little that we can do to contribute for the betterment and the economic strength of Nigeria. That is a role that me and you have to play for the country, so that Nigeria is ours, and we can only get to protect Nigeria. And God bless Nigeria. That is the package on the show here on Global Television in the Global Morning. I'm signing out right now, and shortly we'll have more programs coming up for the day, a fantastic program coming up for the day. Do stay with us.